Hello my darlings, and a very warm welcome back to The Library is Open. So I hope you brought your library cards, my darlings. Just having a little cup of coffee today. I'm cheating on the tea. Now you may remember that when last we spoke, which was probably about 2 weeks ago now by the time this goes live, I had proposed to spend a vlog rereading some of my childhood favourites. So if you haven't seen that vlog yet, go and watch it. Goodness knows I could do with the views. But yes, the plan was that I would spend a week, approximately, depending on how long I needed, rereading 5 of the books that I read a lot as a child from series, kind of continuing series that I read, and kind of have held on to this day, because they've kind of stayed with me for whatever reason. And I was really interested to see whether or not they kind of held up, as it were, to as novels in 2023. And also to see whether I still got some kind of pleasure from reading them, just to see why they've endured, really. So these are the 5 in question. We had Summertime at Trebizon by Digby, Claudia on the Recipe for Danger from Babysitter's Mysteries by Anne M. Martin, In the Fifth at Malory Towers by Enid Blyton, The Ghost of Ravenhill from the Ravenhill Mysteries by Emily Rodda, and this iconic Net Bandits from the Internet Detective series by Michael Coleman. So before we get into how I got on with them, let's have a little overview of how I got on with the reading. welcome back. So I hope you enjoyed that little peep into my reading life. I was worried it was a bit boring, but actually I think there's something quite nice, isn't there, a little gentle watching someone read. There'll be some kind of visual ASMR equivalent or something along the lines. But so interestingly enough, I took those books with me kind of all over what I did over the course of the week. I was in Somerset at one point with work. That's the first clip that you saw me reading Net Bandits in a beautiful little guest house there. And then on my commute and so on and so forth in the back garden, because we just had like a bit of a heat wave in the UK, well, where I am anyway. And then, yeah, various locations throughout my house. So there you go. But I've had a really good time with this vlog, actually. Been wanting to do it for quite a while and just sort of never got round to it. But I think the reason is because a lot of these books, some more so than others, but a lot of these books have really fond memories for me and a lot of kind of evocation of childhood and sort of simpler times and stuff like that, which is not a new thought, but it's something that, you know, interests me as a kind of form of nostalgia, I suppose. And I am aware that nostalgia is ultimately, you know, self-perpetuating in the same way that, you know, for instance, countries do that, don't they? They glorify periods in the past that never really existed. And of course, I'm not claiming that my childhood was perfect, but what I suppose I am saying is that when it wasn't, these were kind of little crutches that kind of helped me along and let me escape into these little sort of fantasy worlds that provided a little bit of respite, I suppose, from the real world. So particularly, you know, the sort of Enid Blyton stuff, which was initially given to me by my grandparents, well, my grandma in particular, who'd had them many moons ago. They're sort of old editions and stuff. Started out with like the famous Five, Secret Seven, and so on, and then worked my way up to the school series were the ones that really captured me. That and there was a mystery series by Enid Blyton as well called The Five Find Outers, which I really enjoyed at the time. And yeah, the rest I kind of discovered on my own, as it were. And I'm just sort of wondering what the kind of sort of enduring elements of them, I suppose, the things that they all have in common, which are essentially I'm just thinking this thought as I'm speaking, that actually a lot of them represented a sort of little bit of attachment from the real world. As I've just been saying, they were sort of young people and children in circumstances where they had control over things, and they were sort of cooperatives and little places without sort of adult intervention, and the kind of normal rules didn't apply, so they were very much kind of, I guess, masters of their own destiny, as it were, as ridiculous as some of the content was and as unbelievable. But then do things have to be believable to create, you know, good, I don't want to say literature, but let's say literature, why not? Let's not be snobby about what we call literature just because it's for children. So, little rant over there. But I think that really is, you know, what kind of brought me into loving these series and the fact that they endured, you know. And I don't think that's necessarily a conscious thing. I think that was something that is just sort of memory stored and so on. Do they hold up? To a certain extent, yes. In some respects, to a certain extent, no. But then, you know, is it realistic to expect things to hold up? I mean, does anybody ever set out to write a novel that will endure? Because, you know, when you think about it, things like Jane Austen, Charles Dickens, they don't hold up per se in the factual details, but the kind of core elements of what they're about are essentially universal human conditions, aren't they? You know, but so, I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had, for instance, particularly, you probably saw this in the clip with the really basic initial kind of exploration of the internet really early in the 90s, and those fabulous windows. I'll just show you again, those fabulous kind of things, and it makes you go think back to the time when you were like, well, no, everything wasn't in your hand, and I didn't see an internet computer till I was about, I don't know, it would have been certainly my mid to late teenage years, where I was actually looking at being online. You know, we didn't have them at school, blah 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 blah, so on and so forth. So actually it was kind of the start of this frontier, I suppose, and now we just take it for granted because it's in our hands, isn't it? But actually there's something quite lovely about revisiting that time and being able to ponder on that. Attitude-wise, I suppose I was worried that this would be the big bugbear in terms of, you know, this is a 1950s book. I'm not sure if it's been updated in terms of, it's really hilarious, I've got my notes from work written up there. You can't see them because they're in pencil, but there we go. And actually, I don't know if they've been edited to reflect, you know, kind of attitudes of the time. You know, it's no secret that a lot of literature from the time will have had elements of, you know, attitudes that are now unacceptable. You know, I can't say anything jumped out at me other than a kind of general sense of, you know, Britishness and what it means to be, specifically English, I suppose I should be honest there. These books are, you know, mostly written about England, but, so there's something there, isn't there, about, but, you know, nothing kind of explicitly like, oh, that's wrong, etc. and so on and so forth, because it wouldn't be wrong per se. It can be wrong in retrospect, of course, in terms of attitudes, but at the time, as reflective of what the time was, then, you know, it was what it was. It was accurately reflecting that, you know. Similarly with the Babysitters Club as well, which is very, very 80s and very kind of aware of that. I mean, they have made an effort in this one to kind of Englishify some of the expressions, so they'll change things like mom to mum, things like that. I don't think we necessarily needed that, but there we go. And again, similar with these two series. So there's little details that are sort of, you know, now out of date, but in quite a quaint way, quite an enjoyable way, and a sort of retrospective looking back as what things were and what they are now. So that's quite nice. And maybe things can exist in that bubble, providing that other things exist that are not in that bubble, you know. And we're seeing, you know, writing for children and young people coming along massively over the last 10-20 years and so on and so forth, and I'm sure throughout, where things are reflecting the real lives of children and young people and what they have to deal with. So maybe there is absolutely room for this escapism, and when I say maybe, I do think that that is true. And you know, there's a reason that certain properties endure and continue to be popular. And from my point of view, you know, I just had a great time sort of revisiting moments of, in my head, simplicity and fun and the joy of reading. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. Do let me know in the comments as well, what are your childhood favourites? Is there anything that sticks with you that you've really enjoyed? Have you ever reread them later and gone, or, oh, it's fine? You know, let me know what stuck with you. Let me know what is definitely out of date now and you wouldn't touch. Or, you know what, if you don't want to, if you just want to leave a comment to say hey on what you're reading at the moment, that's cool too. But for now, put your library cards somewhere safe, my darlings, and I will see you in the next vlog. Take care. Mwah.